Hey everybody, it's Matt Shares, CEO of SBI. Welcome to the SBI Revenue Growth Help Desk. I'm really pleased to have a special guest with me today. So I'm in Arizona, Mary is in Connecticut, but we are side by side. So Mary, great to see you. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
So Mary, as a way of getting started, why don't you introduce yourself to the audience and a little bit about Mitel?
Great. Although I live in Connecticut now, I'm a native Midwesterner and kind of bring that Midwestern sensibility to my day-to-day work. Spent my formative years at Compaq and HP, grew up to run the server business there and did that for a number of years. Transitioned to Nokia and had a great career there. Prior to coming to Mitel, I was CEO of Telecom, and I joined Mitel in the fall of 2019. So have really just been rolling up my sleeves and getting started with the new company.
Yeah. And Mary, when you made that move to Mitel in the fall of 19, nobody could predict what was going on now. But as I think as a way to orient as a CEO who has ran multiple businesses and been inside private equity owned businesses, so you know how to execute and you know how to deliver. And I've had the good fortune of getting to watch you do that. Can you maybe share a little bit about where Mitel was when you joined and what the thinking was, and then sort of how that's transformed over the past 6 to 8 months?
Great. So Mitel is a company with a long and terrific history, actually founded in Canada by a Welshman. So we've got big employee populations in Wales and Canada, as well as other places around the world. With really a promise of communications. And of course, what that promise actually means has evolved dramatically over the years. Their company has grown through leaps and bounds through a series of acquisitions. So we are all under the Mitel banner, but there's a lot of different tribes within the company, if you will, depending on the company of origin. And that goes all the way to the sort of technology that is dominant in our different countries as well. One of the uniting themes for the company is the notion that we are helping our customers evolve their communications needs to the cloud.
Yeah.
Other enterprise workloads have been cloudified for some period of time, but the complexity of communications and the real-time nature has made it one of the last things to make that migration. It takes a special expertise to do this well, and I'm proud to say that's something that Mitel has.
Yeah. Well, and Mary, when you walked in, I would imagine knowing as everyone gets cloudification, so I love your new word. As we think about cloudification, that was central to the thesis. Obviously, communication and collaboration, if anything has been put to the forefront in the last 2 months, it certainly is that. So maybe just from the viewpoint of a CEO, you've led businesses through multiple disruptions, right? If we think about 9/11, if we think about the financial crisis, if we think about where we are now. So I guess from your perspective, are there any sort of commonalities or trends that you would advise the other CEOs when you're going through something like this? Make sure and I want you to leverage that experience you have of having done it.
Sure. I think the fundamental or the guiding principle for me is that you have to get back to the core value proposition and make sure that you are adapting it for the needs of the time. So what is it that the company is really good at, better than anyone else? And how do you use that capability in support of your customers that are very often in a crisis situation? Like you've seen with other companies, we had just a phenomenal shift in the needs of our customers as they transitioned to work from home. I mean, it was insane.
Yeah.
Stuff that we had almost written off in our warehouses, equipment for remote working, things like that. We were dusting it off, shipping it out the door. We sold as many power over or Ethernet adapters in March as we did in all of 2019. I mean, it was just kind of insane supporting this And, sometimes, our sales force became very valuable there because whether it was like one of our cloud solutions or one of our prem solutions, there was this need for remote working. And a lot of times the customers didn't know that we had that innate capability and how to activate it with the equipment they already had. So in some cases it was software licenses, in some cases it was some phones and stuff to use at home. But the relationship with the sales team and with our channel partners became really key to supporting the customers.
So Mary, if you think about it from the concept of or the construct of a CEO, and you think about certain products, and you said you've got to really understand your core value proposition and what you do better than somebody else. What's your advice of how to help other CEOs who maybe don't have the I shouldn't say convenience, advantage of moving to the cloud, and you're so central to business right now? How would you advise other CEOs that are either dealing with retail, sitting on the periphery, wondering what the new normal looks like? Am I 50% capacity when we return, 30, 60, or is this the time to be innovating and changing my business model? Because I would tell you that's one of the biggest questions I keep getting asked is, am I now forced to change? And before, when I didn't have this pressure, I could take my time. So what's your thinking on that?
Yeah, I think there's two things none of us have the luxury of right now. One is time and the other is sleep. Because probably, half our 24 hours is spent thinking about the current business and what's demand going to look like? Are my people safe? How do I support my customers? All those kinds of questions. And then the second is, as you say, what is the new normal? We can expect that what existed before won't come back immediately. I think that's just a safe assumption. Until we really know what the status is with a vaccine, some kind of testing, some kind of knowable state where people could feel safe in congregating, we're going to have to think about how to conduct business differently. It's clear business will be conducted, but how can you apply your assets to what is going to be the new modality?
Yeah, that's well said. So, Mary, there's a lot of people that are using letters in the alphabet to be the futuristic predictor. So I guess whether you subscribe to a W, a V, a U, an L, you talked about sort of these operating norms, these operating principles. When you look back at how you led through other crises, are there maybe one or two things that you think maybe you got wrong before that you're applying that's allowing you to be so effective right now? So I'm going to push on a little vulnerability here in tough times.
Yeah. Everybody has sort of their grandmaster plans and huge investments that you'd like to make and things where you can really shape the future. Particularly coming from a technology business,
Sure.
we all want to put on our black turtlenecks and, create the next big thing. And I think you realize in these crises, what are I go back to the fundamentals, what are the things that are really going to allow you to serve your customers well and go to those brass tacks. And I think particularly in a private equity situation where you're dealing with an established company that has some core capabilities that you are leveraging, maybe polishing up if they've gotten rusty over time, that's the time to really go back and say, what are the bones of the company and how do I increase that relevance for the new era? And I really think that that's my job, not necessarily to invent the next big thing, but to make the best Mitel it can possibly be.
So Mary, on that line, and if you think about the peers that you and I have as they try to predict demand and think about where things are going to be, do you have a way that you separate like super near term, let's call that in quarter, versus like medium term, long term? Like, what are your dimensions of time, and then allocation of resources against those dimensions? Anything you can share around that?
Yeah, I think right now when it is unknown. In fact, for my last town hall, because I think probably one of the other guiding principles for these types of situations is you really cannot over communicate with your folks. Because there is so much uncertainty and a lot of tough things are happening in the environment. So I actually dragged out a picture of one of those old maps that said "Here be dragons." right? Because it is like you're charting and you don't know if the world is flat. Are there dragons around the corner, or is
Oh
there
my
a brave
goodness.
new world? You don't
Yeah.
know, right?
Yeah.
Right?
That's great.
So that's the scenario. And the guidance right now is support the sales team, where there might be a customer request for a new configuration or a new capability or something that would close a sale. And, of course, it's everybody's job to support sales, but sometimes the answer is get in line and we'll get to it. Today, it's like, how can I help you? How can we help you close this deal? And some of the longer term projects may get a bit impacted because job number one is to help close business.
Yeah, it's interesting. So I like the way you thought about that. I love the image, by the way. Um, I'm finding that if people sort of thought about things and I've got a 3-year view, an annual view, and a quarterly view, it seems like those time dimensions have all gone to the month, the kind of 90 days, and like longer term feels like 2 to 4-ish quarters, depending on your business. And I'm part of with a peer group, and we spent some time yesterday speaking about that. And what I noticed was the end market really determined the time dimension. Whereas I bet, Mary, if we sat down with everybody 6 months ago, and all these folks are owned by private equity firms, everybody probably would have had a similar, here's my big thesis on the 3 to 5 year plan and a return on invested capital. Here's the annual plan. And this quarter, I've got these 3 priorities. So
Yeah.
time pressure is being squeezed. I'm feeling that.
Yeah. I think that's right, but that also creates a benefit, right? You don't have time to ruminate and have 47,000 meetings and debate, angels on a head of a pin types of questions that can, frequently become part of strategy processes, if we're honest, right?
Totally.
You know what? What's the no regrets move? Let's make our best shot, and we got to move.
Yeah. So last question, if you think about Mitel being poised for the future and the things that give you excitement and maybe where the innovative juices have probably even picked up for you, Mary, in the last couple of months, can you share a little bit about that so we can sort of come along for the ride?
Sure. One of the great things about Mitel is not only a very fast growing cloud business, but also a terrific installed base of customers that have been with us for decades in some cases, and a terrific network of channel partners. And so sometimes when people think about the cloud, they think about wholesale replacement of what has come before. And we're really in a position to say, hey, Mr. or Ms. Customer, where are you in your journey? Would you like cloudified apps? Would you like just to maybe think about a hybrid solution, have some of your sites be cloud, maybe your headquarters stays on-prem for some of the security and control reasons? Or do you want to make a wholesale change and move all of your communications and collaborations to a cloud? Because of the strength of our portfolio, we're in a position to support that diversity of requirements. And that's a super exciting place to be.
Mary, so what I take from that, I sort of think about, as you were talking, the image in my head was almost modalities of support across the enterprise that you have, and modalities in terms of technical sophistication of those modalities and what you were describing. So the value has probably been reimagined on some of your legacy business, to your Ethernet example, where maybe you guys are rethinking, all of a sudden we've got pockets of almost essentialism that we didn't have 90 days ago, and it's causing you to rethink what you sunset as opposed to where innovation dollars are going. Am I reading that?
No, that's exactly right. There were, the prem business as a market has been in decline, but you think about how essential the communications function are. There's still opportunities for disaster recovery and preparedness and those types of conversations with customers that really weren't top of mind before this. So nobody wants to be a pandemic privateer or profiteer.
Sure.
We want to be sensitive, but there are opportunities in the readiness of this critical infrastructure for the unknowns of this world.
Wonderful. Well, Mary, it is always great to see you. So thank you for taking time. I know your schedule is crazy, so I just appreciate you and your insight to our viewers and listeners. So thank you very much. So great to see you.
Great to see you. Thank you for the opportunity.
And to the listeners and the viewers, Mary was very generous with her suggestions relative to thinking about your business, getting back to your core competence and where you truly deliver value. I love the dragon image, Mary, that you laid out for us as you think about no regrets moves, an element of speed, and then reimagining the modalities upon which you deliver value across each of your platforms, and sort of rethinking those investment and allocation dollars. So, as always, I wish everybody good luck, staying safe, and good luck making your number.